Welcome to Ability to Benefit Part 2. Today we have Mary Helen Martinez, Dr. Mary Helen Martinez, and I have myself as host. We have Yoli Oliver and Tracy Hendricks, and we also have George Goico, and we are all the host and technical support. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and continue. So at this time, I want to introduce to you our presenter, Dr. Mary Helen Martinez. And Dr. Martinez currently serves as a Director of College and Career Readiness at Alamo College's District in the Office of the Vice Chancellor of Academic Success. She's responsible for working with faculty and staff, coordinating college readiness initiatives in the area of developmental education, co-requisite coursework, student placement, Texas Success Initiative assessment, and multiple measures and adult education ability to benefit program. So prior to joining Alamo Colleges, Dr. Martinez's professional background includes extensive grant experience in both fields of developmental and adult education, focusing on professional development and program management. Additionally, she currently serves as an adjunct faculty member of the Adult Professional and Community Education Master's Program at Texas State University and has served as a faculty member for Learning Frameworks course at Texas State University and Austin Community College. So while at Austin Community College, she also served as an academic advisor. Dr. Martinez holds a bachelor's degree in business education, a master's degree in developmental and adult education, and a doctorate in developmental education with an emphasis in learning support from Texas State University. So welcome, Dr. Martinez, and Yoli, take it away.
Thank you, Olga, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to part 2 of learning all about ability to benefit. I hope you caught the first part. This part is going to be a little bit more exciting because we have our partner with us. I'd like to introduce to you Ms. Carrie Rhodes from Restore Education. She will be presenting alongside myself this afternoon, and we're going to hear all about the Ability to Benefit partnership that she has with San Antonio College, which is one of the Alamo colleges in our district. So thank you, everyone. We also had Michelle Hill, our financial aid director from Alamo Colleges. She was going to present with us. She's the financial aid director, but she was unable to join us due to some, I think it was jury duty that she had today, so she couldn't join us. So thank you again for being with us. Next slide, please. Our learning objectives today, we hope that you'll learn all about the Alamo College District partnership with Restore Education in providing an ability to benefit program. Participants will hear from Restore Education and the process of partnering with San Antonio College. And they'll also, I will talk about the financial aid office on processing financial aid awards for ability to benefit students. And you'll get to ask questions of any one of us, either one of us, in order to begin planning an ability to benefit program in your adult education program. Just to recap from part 1, I just want to say it again. Ability to Benefit program provides financial aid. It's an alternative path to eligibility for federal student aid for students who do not have a high school credential. That's someone who doesn't have a high school diploma or its recognized equivalent. So they haven't finished their GED yet. So this is, again, an alternative path to eligibility for financial aid. And students without a high school credential can enroll in college simultaneously or concurrently under Ability to Benefit and apply for financial aid. Certain criteria, of course, must be met. Next slide, please. And here's the eligibility criteria. So students have to complete one of the following, one of these, right? Either number 1 or number 2, right? They have to pass an administrative test approved by the U.S. Department of Education. And as I mentioned last time, Alamo College's district uses the AccuPlacer, the Ability to Benefit AccuPlacer. Or they could have completed 6 hours or complete 6 credit hours or 225 clock hours, as the law says, that are applicable toward a degree or certificate offered by our institution of higher ed or an institution of higher ed. or they could complete, so it's 1, 2, or 3, but I leave off 3 all the time because Texas doesn't have this. They could complete a state process approved by the Secretary of Education. So it's not available here in Texas. So it's either 1 or 2. And students must enroll in an eligible career pathway, and students will be concurrently enrolled in their adult education program and college career pathway program simultaneously or concurrently. So again, Michelle Hill, our financial aid director, could not join us today, but she'll tell you that just like any student, students must fill out and meet the FAFSA criteria eligibility. They will be considered an ability to benefit student until the students obtain a high school diploma or its recognized equivalent. At that time, student would no longer be subject to the restrictions placed on ability to benefit students, including the requirement of an eligible career pathway. So whatever your normal students or your regular students or for lack of a better term, just any student applying for FAFSA, they have to apply for the FAFSA, apply for the financial aid assistance, and they have to clean up any outstanding verification or application validation items required. And here are the eligibility for the federal financial aid, which is U.S. citizenship or federal aid eligible non-citizen, have a valid social security number, and have completed selected service requirements as appropriate. So all coursework covered by financial aid must meet the courses and program of study, or if you haven't heard it, it's CPAWS guidelines, which is another way of saying they have to stick to their program requirements. So you don't want them, once they selected one, financial aid might not cover that. So that's the financial aid piece. Now we'll have Carrie Rhodes from Restore Education talk about her program and her ability to benefit program with San Antonio College.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mary Helen Martinez. We're so happy to be here with you folks today, and we're very excited to talk about the Ability to Benefit program. Okay, so Restore Education, we are a nonprofit adult education service provider within the Alamo Consortium. So the lead in our consortium is ESC Region 20, and we are one of 8 of the service providers within our community. One of the things about our organization is that we truly do want to help all of our students connect with post-secondary. And so our core values right there on the screen are what drive our programming. Post-secondary success is for everyone. Flexible pathways lead to success for each student, and personal transformation is the key to college persistence. And so when we had the opportunity to work with Alamo Colleges to create this Ability to Benefit program, we were very excited because this was a chance to put our core values into action. So we serve students all across San Antonio's community. We are indeed 75% women. Most of our students are parents. Many of them are single parents. 90% of them are first-generation college students. 85% are low income, and 90% are ethnic and racial minority. But our students are also all of these factors as well. Many of them are hardworking. Oftentimes they are working 2 or 3 jobs to support their families. They have a wealth of experience and prior knowledge. Many of them have attempted some form of certification or degree before. They are indeed balancing many different responsibilities, even now more so during the pandemic times. And they are seeking positive education experiences, and they are very driven to succeed. Many of them have connected with this idea of Ability to Benefit programming because they see the value of taking a great leap forward in their educational goals, and they know that they do want to go to college, and this first step in there is a great way to do it with support. So here at Restore Education, we do have these programs right here, working with high school equivalency, college preparation and support, English language learning, and workforce training. So the Ability to Benefit programming has combined the high school equivalency program and some of our college preparation and support programming. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. In I want to say April of 2019, we were able to make a connection with Dr. Martinez to talk about our hopes of creating this ability to benefit programming. She connected us with the offices of academic success on San Antonio College's campus. We worked with the Dean of Academic Success to create this ability to benefit programming. So in our partnership, we worked basically out of that dean's office. She led the point and became the primary point of contact when we were setting up this program. And during the setup and then the registration phase, we found ourselves meeting monthly to guide the process. In these monthly meetings, she would bring together at the table the people in admissions, financial aid, testing, academics, and the Empowerment Center, which is a special center that works with non-traditional students on San Antonio College campus. So with all of us at the table, we were making sure that we were in line with all of the guidelines for ability to benefit, and making sure that we were communicating about the student needs as they were going through the registration process. Sometimes working through the bureaucracy at the college level can be difficult for students to navigate. And so for us, it was vital to communicate frequently about what students needed, especially if there were a mistake on an application or there was more information needed, like requiring verification for students going through the financial aid process. And so that worked very well, especially at the beginning. And then we were working with advisor to advisor from the college, working with our advisor on staff to support the students as they were navigating through that transition. How did we find our students? We worked actually very closely with the college. The college the college has a GED class that happens on campus. And so they communicated with students that they knew. And we, of course, were communicating with students that we knew. We looked for students that had 3 high school equivalency exams completed. And they had all but math remaining. This was really important because we knew that because we wanted the students to complete college academic classes, we wanted to make sure that the barrier for them was very low with other work that had to happen. It was a pretty tall order to take 2 college classes plus complete the final remaining GED. So we wanted to make sure we were limiting it to that. And when we were working with the college, one of their deans worked really closely with us in picking out the pathways, because that is an essential part of the ability to benefit, is that this is leading to something that will directly lead to employment. So we selected business, IT, and nursing as the pathways that we had our students geared towards. So all of the students were on Associate of Applied Science degree plans. And the classes that they were taking were EDUC 1300, which is the student development elective at San Antonio College. And they were taking English 1301. Both of those are on all degree plans. So no matter which way they went, it was going to count for them. And why these 3? Most students expressed an interest in nursing, IT, or business. So we made sure to pick pathways that were in line with student interest, but also in line with the in-demand occupations that are here in San Antonio. And so we have great business needs. IT is booming, as well as healthcare. So that was where we focused most of our students. And then in the fall of 2019, we had our first cohort. 15 students participated in a math AEL class that was staffed by our organization, but it was held on the college campus. very exciting. And then they had 2 classes. So Mondays and Wednesdays, student development, Tuesdays and Thursdays, English 1301. The students were on campus from about 8 in the morning till about 12:30. And then sometimes they would come to our learning center to continue to work on their homework. And in that first semester, we had 12 students complete the last GED and the courses. And they persisted to the spring semester. And then in the future, or excuse me, as we've continued, it has had its difficulties, partially related to what has happened, of course, with COVID closing down and people having difficulty doing things remotely. But we do continue to work on this programming. All right, and then that's my information. So I just want to turn this back to Mary Helen, and we can answer some questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Carrie. I'm going to ask Carrie just a couple of questions so she can clarify some of the ability to benefit programming that she and San Antonio College designed. Just as a disclaimer, one size does not fit all for ability to benefit. This was definitely unique and individualized to the needs of the student, the needs of the college, San Antonio College, and the needs of Restore Education. So I'll start off with a couple of questions. Thank you again, Carrie. That was wonderful. So given that our adult learners have a lot of competing priorities, and you talked about that they had to be in class like from 8 to 12:30, is that right?
Yes.
Was that every day of the week, or how was that laid out?
It was every day, Monday through Thursday. And then on Friday, we had tutoring at our learning center.
And then tell us, how did you motivate your students when they didn't want to do the Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday to continue to enroll? That's a tough one, and eventually complete their program.
Mm-hmm. It was actually very challenging. Many of these students, because math was their last exam, math was their least favorite subject. And that was what they had to be at school at 8 o'clock for. From 8 to about 10 or 10:30 was the math class. So a lot of it was personal connection with the students, connecting with them and encouraging them to come to class. And then another part of it was making sure they were fully aware that if they didn't attend, and they did not pass the math class, they would not be able to continue. So what we did was we did a lot of encouraging for them to get out there and to try it. I think another part was getting them the feedback that they needed. They needed to know where they were on their pathway, which means having them take, not too frequently, but frequently enough, assessments to see where they were on the pathway so that they could feel that confidence, build their self-efficacy so that they could take the practice tests and then feel confident enough to go take the actual HSE exams.
Great. Thank you, Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
And
we have a question in the chat from Evangelina. She's asking, were the students co-enrolled with the college already?
They were enrolled. So this program started in August of 2019. And so what they did is they enrolled in our adult ed program, and they enrolled in college and began attending the AEL class and the college classes that August. So yes, they were co-enrolled. In fact, that's what I call it. That's what we call the program here, is we call it dual enrollment, which means they're enrolled in Restore Education and they are enrolled in college at the same time.
And unique to the Ability to Benefit program that Restore and San Antonio College agreed upon was that the student would have completed already 3 of the high school equivalency tests prior to being enrolled. So they just needed the math at that point. And that's what she's describing. And then again, the pathways, they selected business, IT, and nursing. So again, that was to meet the needs of the student. So would you describe any challenges, Carrie, that from your lessons learned in continuing to improve this ability to benefit since 2019? I know you talked about COVID, which was very difficult for all of us. But is there any lesson learned that you said, oh, we wish we could have done this from the beginning?
Not necessarily from the beginning, but I feel like, I know people say this all the time, but it is so true. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Work really closely with your partners. So while our point of contact was in the Dean of Academic Student Success, boots on the ground, we worked with the Empowerment Center. And so we worked closely with their advising staff and and their director in order to make sure that the students stayed on track. The other part that we had to do was to very closely and clearly delineate what each partner was doing. So the academic advising, the direction, and the college coordination all came from the college. And then we were more the success coach, working with students in tutoring, in helping them plan out assignments and successfully navigate the college semester. That was where we would come in. And of course, the encouragement and the adult education instruction in math.
Great, great. Thank you so much. And then
So-
you talk, go ahead.
Sorry about that. We have another question from Cynthia. So they did not have to take the AccuPlacer.
That's incorrect. They did take the AccuPlacer.
You have to as part of the eligibility for ability to benefit, okay? So I have one last question for Carrie, and then we'll open it up again to all participants. You mentioned that you had a math intervention or a math course that you developed for our students so they could complete that particular portion of their high school equivalency. What others, and you provided tutoring, right, on Fridays? So
Yes.
that was tutoring for the math or tutoring for any of their college courses? And I'm just curious, what supports do you provide your ability to benefit students while they're dually enrolled?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes to all of the above. Yes, we worked with students to prepare them for the high school equivalency math exam. And we were working with them on their English assignments or their student development assignments as was needed. There was a little bit more need with the students in the English class, just to make sure, because this was that first like their essays, essay number 1 and their final essay had a high barrier to success because there was so much kind of placed on it. So we found ourselves working with the students probably about like at least once every other week. Someone was coming in for some support with that. And then one of the things I really appreciated about this in the communication process was that the advisor would go and get the grades from the professors, and then we were able to see if there was someone who was having difficulty, and then both sides would reach out to offer support.
Oh, that is excellent.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. So at this point, I'll open it up for any more questions that we have for Carrie. Yoli, do you see any more in the chat?
I do not see any more questions.
Then let's go ahead and go to the next slide, and perhaps at the end, we can have some more questions. So just a reminder again, that ability to benefit program, there has to be an eligible career pathway. And that is decided, as Carrie mentioned, through the institution of higher ed on that end. And it has to have the certain elements to be an eligible career pathway. So it has to align with the skill needs of the industries there in the local area or state or regional economy. It has to include the advising, and we heard Carrie say lots about advising and how they worked to support the student's education. It enables the student to be concurrently enrolled, as we said, in the career pathway or in college while enrolled or dually enrolled in the adult ed program, completing their GED or their high school equivalency, excuse me. And student is not restricted to the career pathway, that the ability to benefit enrollment once the student obtains that high school equivalency. For example, if they went into business as an ability to benefit student, they'll have to stick to it until they complete their high school equivalency. At that point, if they decide to go into nursing and switch over, they can do so with financial aid. So just some planning tips. Planning is really critical to this whole ability to benefit program. So Carrie didn't mention that there's a lot of pre-meetings and roundtable meetings, that they had lots of conversations between the two entities, the Adult Ed program and San Antonio College. You have to identify those key stakeholders. So we have the support of our Vice President of Academic Success and Student Success there at San Antonio College. However, you have to get the folks who are really dealing with this on an everyday basis identified. So you want the leadership buy-in, but you also want the frontline buy-in. I believe Carrie mentioned communication. You know, a point of contact would be ideal at both the Adult Ed program and the institution of higher ed. So there's lots of folks who could be stakeholders. It just depends on the program and the partnering institution of higher ed that your Adult Ed program is thinking about developing an ability to benefit program. It could include admissions, registrars, financial aid office, testing, advising, and I can tell you in the background for the ability to benefit to the Restore Education partnership with San Antonio College, all of those folks were involved at one point or another, because we have to get them registered on our end. And as Carrie mentioned, there is a bureaucracy of the college that just inherently is designed that way to be a little challenging to enroll students. So we have to have them at the table. Of course, financial aid and then testing for the AccuPlacer and advising is very critical. You also can bring in, you know, your employers or your industry association folks, your local area workforce boards, and definitely any of your community-based organizations that you partner with. It could be a bigger partnership. It all depends. It just depends on how you want to design this program. So it helps if you identify some student support services on both ends. As Carrie mentioned, they had lots of support services continuously there at Restore Education for the student enrolled in ability to benefit. But we at the college have to have that as well. So we had our faculty who had some experience with our students and trying to transition them to college. So as Carrie mentioned, we had the student development course, the EDUC 1300, and then the English 1301. And then we scheduled regular planning meetings with all of these key stakeholders, and they continued as needed. And again, designating that point of contact is critical. And then meeting with updates, just like the students want to know how they're doing, the key stakeholders want to know how they're doing as well. So just, you know, meeting updates, just sending in a couple of things, you know, here's this or here's that. And this is where we're at, or we're having a challenge here, and then everyone can jump in and help out at that point. One of the things that Carrie didn't mention, but I do know that some of her ability to benefit students completed since 2019. Is that correct, Carrie?
You mean associate's degrees?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
I think one, or was it one or two? I can't remember, from the first cohort.
It's entirely possible, yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll go back and check, but we do have success, and these students, they get a feel for what college is, and they go ahead and complete their high school equivalency. It's a win-win. Again, it is very intense for the student, and that support is very critical on both ends, especially the Adult Ed program, because in my opinion, Adult Ed programs can support their students a little bit better than colleges, you know, as far as the personal support that they may need. They have lots of things going on, and they can do this, but they can do this with our help. And I think that it's critical that we have those support services on both ends. The colleges now where I work at, all 5 community colleges in Alamo Colleges District, has student advocacy centers now. So anything from, you know, a clothes closet to food or to a referral to a mental health provider or what have you, that we have it there we completely understand the holistic approach at a community college to a student. So we are there to support the students. At this point, does anyone have any questions? Okay, then we'll, Yoli, I'm jumping. I can't see the chat, but is that right? No one has questions?
I think Olga just typed some questions into the chat. She's asking about more about the process we went through with the financial aid office. So a lot of that happened in the pre-planning meeting. So from April all the way through till about October of 2019, we met once a month in a roundtable setting. And so what ended up happening was throughout the summer months, building up to the fall semester, our advisor would fill out the application and the FAFSA with the students. We turned in the names to the college who flagged those applications and flagged those FAFSAs. And what they did was they, for lack of a better term, they shepherded them through the paperwork process. So sending us the alerts if we needed to prove residency or if we needed to do verification. And so for some of the students, it was a real squeaker. I think that we were able to get their financial aid processed maybe the week after class started, but before census date. But their registrations, because they were in this class, their registrations were held. So that was another benefit of working with the college, because the college was invested in the students making it in. And so they worked very hard to make sure that all of the paperwork was completed as quickly as possible. How long did it actually take? We were actually very surprised that it went so fast. So when Kelly and I had the meeting with Dr. Martinez, we were like, you know, this would be a great idea. And the next thing you know, we're meeting with somebody who says, yeah, let's do it this fall. And so that just basically took off like a rocket ship. So it took 4 months for this first setup. Now, moving forward, we knew that eventually the college was probably going to have to create an application process for these students to enter as ability to benefit. And Dr. Martinez was telling me that now that has happened. So that process has taken 2 years to really put the infrastructure together for that to happen.
I can answer the other questions, I think.
Okay.
Does financial know these funds can be used for adult ed? Wait, how do you get financial aid to understand that this can be used for adult ed students? And the next slide after this one gives you the resource on that Dear Colleague letter and where it states that these funds are to be used for adult ed students. It took, I did have to send Michelle Hill lots of information on ability to benefit, the law, and what have you. Ability to benefit started way back when, and I can't remember the first year, maybe 2009, and it ran till about 2014, and then it stopped completely. But then it made a comeback in 2015, 16, I can't remember, something like that. So at one point, the financial aid was just a percentage of what they could get, but at some point they changed it to full award. So I had to make sure our financial aid department and director understood that these were you awarded the full amount that they were eligible for. So it does take some education on somebody's part to work with the financial aid department. So Olga, those are great questions. Let me see what else. That is a good question. I've always tried to do a flow chart. Carrie, do you have some sort of process or something that documents this process? Like step 1, step 2, step 3?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
Currently, we do not. Currently, we do not. But I can definitely see that, like, in some of our reporting for some of our grants, we have documented it via narrative, and then what I shared with you folks today.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you for that suggestion. And at some point in our spare time, we can definitely document the process. So I had a little group activity. I don't know how many there are. We could just have it one group and we can ask if there's like 1, 2, 3.
Do you want to just do that in here and just have,
Sure, I'll just do it. And if you can unmute your mic or put it in the chat, just a reflection on ability to benefit. What did Restore do in order to have an ability to benefit program? Can anyone tell me? Charmin, you may know the answer, or Cynthia. Reach out to their college partner. Yes, thank you, Charmin. They just asked, they reached out. So it's just as simple as that, to reach out. And you can work with you can start with any dean of student success or academic success or academic affairs or student affairs, or your vice president, or you can start with a career pathway instructor or a career pathway dean. So you could start basically anywhere, and then you could go from there. So is the financial aid process different for students on ability to benefit? I guess it's my quiz. It's my way of quizzing. Like, were you listening? Were you listening?
I think that, okay, let me see if I understand this correctly. So yes, the process is a little bit different, just a little. Well, I don't know if it's the process or the requirements, right? Because they still have to take that entrance, that AccuPlacer to make sure that they qualify. But the other thing is they cannot have a high school equivalency. They have to be working towards it in order to qualify for a
right. And I think that you said it best. It is the requirements of the program. So the financial aid process is the same, just like any other student, but in order to be eligible for ability to benefit, you have to meet that criteria and pass that AccuPlacer or have those 6 credit hours toward a degree.
So we do have a question. Can a college have more than one ATB partner?
Sure, absolutely. It just depends how you want to design it and what works for your area. Just as long as you meet the criteria for the eligibility of your students.
So
and
let's say
the institution of higher ed has to be there because it has to be an accredited certified career pathway or for a certificate or a degree.
So let's say, let me use like the Alamo Consortium for as an example with Carrie and with Restore Education. So Alamo Colleges is within that area, and the Alamo Consortium actually has several different programs under them. So Restore Education is taking advantage of this through Alamo Colleges, but so could all the other programs if they establish that relationship and that communication. So
absolutely.
This is definitely doable for several programs in the same area with the same college, because so in essence, Restore Education has opened this door for the other programs to be able to. Okay.
Does that help, Cynthia, answer your question? Because it has to have an institution of higher ed as a partner. That's where the students get their dual enrollment, if you will.
Yes, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Who do I need to contact in my partnering institution of higher ed? Like I said, it may depend on who you know or who you can get a hold of that day, or if you have a college in mind. You can just email me, and I think my email's on here, and I can try to find the person that you want to start off that conversation with. And then this is a critical one to me. What supports do you think ability to benefit students would need in order to be successful?
They had tutoring.
Mm-hmm.
They provided support services. I think they had someone like the Career Navigator talk to the students in advance to try and resolve all the barriers before they made this huge commitment. And I think getting them to understand that huge commitment of time and how important this is. So somebody said enrollment and advising assistance. Definitely.
Yes.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Definitely.
Right,
thank you. Yes, and the center that serves non-traditional students is excellent place to start, and as well as get support services from. Thank you, Charmin.
So Evangelina
And
mentioned tutoring, career navigators,
yes,
financial aid advising.
yeah, yes, thank you for that. That is all necessary. And there is a lot of, our students don't know what they don't know. And as Carrie mentioned, I love the way she put it, the bureaucracy of the college. There's a lot that goes on at a college that is unfamiliar to your students. So you want to walk them through the process, and you want to help them, assist them all along the way. At some point, I mean, you can let them go, but not until they're fully enrolled and you know, they have the support services. And again, Restore Education had students already succeed with 3 of those high school equivalency tests. So they had experienced some success already there, and they knew the end was in sight, so they can finish that, and they were interested in moving on and going on to college. So a win-win for everyone. And then again, all those wraparound services, and our colleges provide it. They just need to go to, you know, our student advocacy centers, and every college has some form or fashion of that student advocacy center where they can get assistance. It's not a requirement, Evangelina. That was just something that was put in place through Restore Education and San Antonio College. They felt that that student could be more successful than a student starting fresh, right? With no GED or no, excuse me, high school equivalency test that they had passed already. So it makes it difficult if you haven't passed one of them, say, for example, an ELAR or English language arts reading, and then to take the English at the college level. Olga, you had a thought that, is there a minimum number of students each semester to make the program viable? No, as far as viable for eligibility, no, there is not. For Cary and San Antonio College, they might have agreed upon a certain number, but Cary, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was about 15 students.
That's a great question. So San Antonio College tries to have at least 22 students minimum in the class. We got permission to go below that for that first semester because we were trying it out. We designed this so that it was done in a learning community. So it was a paired course where the professors were able to work with each other and support each other with complementary assignments. As we have continued to go through this process, we have worked with the college to basically say we will place students in college courses that are not paired and not necessarily full of ability to benefit students, but with regular college students. So that's part of the evolution that we've been going through. So therefore, we're not having to make a class, which has been extremely difficult during COVID.
Yeah. You can see there was a lot of planning on the college's part as well to make this happen. So this was exclusive for the ability to benefit students, these courses that were designed. We did not put them into an existing one. We created one for this. So that helped tremendously as well, as there were a learning community, as Cary mentioned. Okay, let's see. All righty. Any other, these are great questions. Again, it'll depend on your individual circumstances and situation and your partners. If, you know, ideally you could design, or you were interested in designing an ability to benefit program, what would be one action item to move you forward? Just one action item in the next week that you could do. Evangelina said, reach out to a college partner. Thank you. Call my dean or email them. Absolutely. And so, Charmin, you work at a college, so that could be, you know, working across departments. So yeah, kudos to you. Make sure our adult ed programs understand the process. Yes, and it is a trial and error in understanding it. And here are the ability to benefit program resources, that Dear Colleague letter, and then the Federal Register, which includes the ability to benefit approved test. So those two items are very, very important as they outline the rules of this program. Understanding the process is challenging because you have to just make sure that you read the rules and regulations first and foremost, and then have the best interest of your students in mind. And again, work collaboratively across with your institution of higher ed or your adult ed program, whichever it may be, or across departments or externally. And that's very important, just to provide some sort of career pathway or program for students that otherwise would not have access to federal student aid. And that's the gist of this program, is to provide financial aid for students without a high school diploma or its recognized equivalency. Any more questions or thoughts, comments? More resources for you to read all about it as far as the rules and regs, and there's the National Association of Adult Ed Directors, and everyone promotes it. It's almost like a hidden secret that you can do this, and it's a great program. It's an intense program, and there has to be a lot of planning before you can just open it up to the masses. But there's some great examples already, just like Restore Education and San Antonio College, to help lead the way. And I think I included more in the appendix if you want to just keep going. So I put in an appendix some of the slides that I had last time. These are the summary of student requirements. And then the next slide just talks about the eligible career pathway, and that you can work with your institution of higher ed to do this. This is Alamo College's process for admissions, and that's where we talk about the high school, or submit a score report or indicating all but 2 components have been completed. Yeah, depending on the HiSET or the GED, whichever one you're using. Sorry. This is something that we're working on that's new. We're trying to work on stackable credentials, and they're in progress. So Carrie mentioned IT is very popular, and so is nursing. So in our health clusters, or Alamo College's level 1 certificates, that they can start off without a TSI score, and then they can move into a level 2 and then eventually get their associate's degree. So we're going to be working with Carrie on this in the future, and we look forward to that as well. So her particular students right now start in the academic portion of it, and here's another alternative to start with the certificate portion of it. So I will wrap up now. If there are any more questions, we'll be happy to take those, but I sincerely want to thank Carrie Rhodes at Restore Education, because they do incredible work, and the partnership has been successful because of their support for their students that they have continuously provided. So thank you, Carrie, for what you do there.
My question was about, you mentioned the certificates that students could enroll in the career pathway. They could just enroll in the certificates. Does that mean they would not need the English class?
It depends on the certificate. You'll have to look at their program requirements.
Okay.
It cannot start off in continuing ed. Continuing education is not eligible for financial aid, but as long as it's on the academic side of the career pathway for a certificate, it is eligible. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Olga, do you want to wrap it up with the?
Yes, I want to say thank you so much to Dr. Mary Helen Martinez, and also to Carrie Rhodes for all of your time that you put into this presentation. I really appreciate you sharing, because I think that this ability to benefit is something that our students should be able to take advantage throughout the state. And I want to see more programs utilizing this benefit for our students, because we've come so far with adult education to where we're able to pay for training. That was always my dream in the early 2000s, and it's because I've been in adult ed for a million years. So it was always my dream in the early 2000s, and now that we're able to do this, I want to see just everybody take advantage of all of these benefits for our students, because we can. So thank you so much for sharing. I want to thank Yoli, Tracy, and George for being here today and helping out in the background. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.